Ian Scotto here, and as you can already see, this is the best of music guests episode of the podcast. And when I was digging through the archives of all the interviews we've done over these past 3.5 years, I realized I could not fit them all on here. I mean, we've had on everyone from Edsel Dope to John Dolmayan from System of a Down to Jimmy Allen, original member of Puddle of Mud, Dave Bray. Couldn't fit them all. So this is just, I guess, the first part of the best of music guests we've had on the podcast, and maybe we'll do some more in the future. But getting to relive some of these episodes, really powerful interviews from all these great guests that we've had on from the music world, everyone from singers to DJs to guitarists to drummers. I mean, it's a wide array of people from all different genres, although we mainly have people from the rock world on. And I love doing these. I know Chris does as well. So we plan on doing more rock interviews and, even rap interviews or country artists in the future. Love having them on. Love switching it up. I know we focus on the special operations military world and the Second Amendment world, but we like having guests on from different parts of life. And as you'll hear from some of these interviews, who, although they may not be in the military themselves, they have tremendous respect for the military. So before we get into this, I want to give a shout out to our great friends at Ned. We're actually going to have Rhett Taylor from Ned, from the Ned brand, on the podcast coming up soon in a couple of weeks. Love Ned and love what those guys do. They're always traveling all over and really finding the best alternative medicine out there. And when I say alternative medicine, really just the real holistic ingredients that your body needs, as opposed to getting prescription medicine for things like sleeplessness or anxiety or any of that. And one supplement you need to be taking is a great magnesium supplement. So with over 700 5-star customer reviews, Ned's Mellow Magnesium is an instant hit. Nourish your entire body with Ned's proprietary super blend with 3 forms of chelated magnesium, GABA, L-theanine, and over 70 trace minerals. It propels memory, mood, brain function, stress response, nerve and muscle health, and sleep. And about 75% of Americans are deficient in it. So you got to take your magnesium. I've been taking magnesium supplements for a long time now, before I even was working with Ned. So I was so great that this great company that we partner with put out their own magnesium product, and really products, because they also have their Mellow Super Blend Latte, which I take all the time at night, and I have great sleep. So Ned's Mellow Magnesium, whether you're doing the latte or just the other product that they have, Mellow Magnesium, that's now available on Amazon, but you'll get the best deal through us as a first-time customer when you go to helloned.com/Battleline or enter the code Battleline at checkout. That's HELLONED.com/Battleline. So as you can see, this episode is audio only if you're listening on YouTube. We'll be back with video next week, but I was putting this one together and just wanted to get it done and do it on my own because I had so much stuff in the archive. So this is an audio only episode. Strap in though. If you've never heard these interviews, you're going to love them. And if you have, let's dig back in the archives and revisit them.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline Podcast.
The switch is on, Battleline Podcast, and let's start this one off with our latest music interview, which was Nastacha Beck from Jigsaw Youth in studio. We talk about her actually finding us and finding Chris Peranto through reading The Ranger Way. When I first met Chris was, during the 13 Hours time when the book came out, and Benghazi was so a part of the news cycle. For you being younger, I don't think you experienced as much of that being part of the news cycle. So the way we made the connection was you reading The Ranger Way.
Yeah, that was cool. Thank you for that.
So how did that all come about, though? What made you pick it up?
So maybe 2 years ago, I was dating a guy who was going to be a Ranger, and he was at Fort Bragg. I met him in North Carolina. So I didn't really know anything about the whole military life and just all the things that they go through. And so dating him, I stayed at Fort Bragg a couple times, and I just kind of fell in love with it, the discipline. And he was crazy, but he had the ego, but he needed to, because he had to get through Ranger school, and which he did. Sure. So I was really intrigued. And then even though it didn't work out, I was still oh, I could apply a lot of these principles. Becoming a Ranger, fighting for something, having a passion, having a mission, apply it to my life, which I kind of was already doing, but was drawn to it more. So on my first national tour that I got, which was I think, November, December of 2021, towards the end of the year, I was reading a lot. And I picked up that book. I was reading a lot of different
I can tell you're an avid reader.
Yeah, I've been slacking a little bit, but for a while I was burning through them. So that's the one that I picked up because while he was away, I wanted to kind of learn more about what he was going through. That way there could be a connection, because I'm a girl from New York. I'm not a guy that's going to fight wars. How are we going to connect? So I was let me educate myself. So, and then it just kind of continued through there. So I picked up that, and I read 13 Hours. And I loved it. And it was because a lot of the principles are the same, embracing the suck. There's a lot of things that come with working in an industry that's really not easy, especially being a woman. So, and then just applying it through everything, just having the discipline to be healthy, have a good mental state, even if your surroundings are kind of falling apart. So to this day, still use those principles, as morals, as lessons. Because it was more of I like that you wrote the book where you don't have to be a Ranger to relate. It was you could be anybody as long as you're relating to these set rules. You know what I mean?
Well, I did. That's the whole reason when I did write. There was enough cool guy books out there, and it was man. I think people need to realize how much we are screw ups, and what it's just like everybody else. We screw up
we're human.
So much.
Yeah,
it's just how. But what do you do? That's the only difference I tell people between Rangers, SEALs, Delta, whatever else, and civilian population is that it's not that any stronger, any more mentally tough, and it's just that when we fall down, we pick ourselves up.
Right,
and everybody can do that.
Yeah,
and honestly, I that's where I. Where I did see that on your Instagram, man, that's cool, and I thought it was because of my face, because it was a pretty good looking picture.
It might have contributed to also selling the book.
That was a recent one, so if you go back to episode 180, you'll hear Nastacha Beck, and this is actually a member of one of my favorite bands, Emmure, Joshua Travis. He was also in a band called, and I'm not joking, the Tony Danza Tap Dance Extravaganza. And they were a very heavy band. And despite the comedic name, they actually did have some very serious songs. And that includes a song that they did called Hold the Line, which we get into. And we talk about that because it was a military-themed song with real sound effects from actual warfare. And Joshua also talks about his military fan base and the respect he has for guys who serve and guys he's actually worked with in bands who have gone on to serve. So check this out from episode 51, Joshua Travis. And once again, revisiting this clip, I forgot how powerful this was and really reminds me of why I love doing this show. There's always some type of military connection with what we do because of Chris's background and people we have on. And the one military connection I could think of in your career
is Danza 4, right? Hold the Line, which was dedicated to service members. How did that come about?
We would like to take a minute to thank our family, friends, and all men and women serving in the United States Armed Forces. This song goes out to you.
Jesse was always like from a military family, and he's like very into that. I mean, I don't know if you kept up with Jesse at all, like throughout the years, but like he's an officer now. And like, if I'm not mistaken, he's on SWAT. Like he's like, pretty heavy in this stuff. And like that song, I don't exactly remember like how or when that was what it turned into. Like, I mean, like we would always pre-pro stuff, but for that one, I don't really recall when. It may have been in the studio when we were doing the track, but once it became that, it was. It just got heavier and heavier and deeper and into all of the clips and the stuff that I put in the track, like towards the end of it. And like, that definitely struck people in certain ways, not always good ones either.
I'll be a president who ends this war in Iraq and finally brings our troops home. We are one nation, and our time for change has come. I have determined that it is in our vital national interest to send an additional 30,000 U.S. troops to Afghanistan. After 18 months, our troops will begin to come home. Watch out, let me get a shot. Where? Hey, he's in that garage! Right here? Yeah, he's in there! We got friendlies on the road! Everybody, break out! Break out!
It was just a very personal thing, and I was trying to give him what he was looking for, and then once it started, really fleshing out like what the track was, and it came down to the end of the song, it was just like, dude, we have to close this out. We have to close this out properly. And then, dude, that ending is heavy, dude. Like, that's a very, very, very serious thing. And it's like, it's easy to not understand, what they go through, not at all. And just hearing that kind of audio was just like chilling, and like some people that may listen to it and they're like, whatever, this is just whatever. And it's like, actually, no, that's not whatever. That's real. That's not like some scripted movie or whatever. Like, that's real audio from real shit happening. Like when dude says, keep shooting, keep shooting. It's like, holy fuck. Like, that's very, very real. And like, it just made sense. I was like, what? I feel like that was what it needed to be. It did. It was what it was supposed to be. And that's where I was really trying to take that, from that whole thing. And Jesse's performance on it was like much different than a lot of the other tracks. Like, he had like different emotional takes in it, rather than just like, I'm screaming and pummeling your face. This one was like, gut-wrenching screams. Not like the same normal ones. Like, there was just a lot more in that track. There was a lot more. I had a lot of those peaks and valleys. And like, if you are not afraid to, be open to the emotions, that's a heavy track. Yeah.
Have you ever had military service members say to you, like, hey, your music helped me on a deployment or anything like that?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. And I don't ever know what to say to them. Is this just like, dude, that's like the least I could do. What do you mean? Like, where are you right now? Like, that's what I want to say. Like, don't thank me, thank you. Like, no, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm just here. I have this for you. I have this. Like, dude, it's invaluable. Like, there's no words. But yes, I've had that numerous times. And every time it's just like, wow, man. Wow. And like thinking like, this is literally the shit that they turn on when shit's about to hit the fan. It's just like, I don't even have words for that. It makes your stomach feel weird. It's just like, damn, dude, this is like literal life and death situations here.
Well, Joshua Travis is not the only member of Emmure that we had on, and the singer and founder of Emmure, shouldn't say singer, because it's a lot of it's a lot of unclean vocals, as they say, a lot of screaming. Frankie can sing, but it's not really what he spends his time on in Emmure. It's so if you're not into the screaming vocals, it might not be your thing. But I go way back with Frankie from Emmure, just an all-around great dude. So we had him on as one of the earlier guests from episode 14. And if Emmure ever does any newer stuff, because it's been since 2020, I'd love to have those guys back on. But this clip is about manifesting your dreams into reality. But as Frankie says, you got to take action and not just manifest.
I just had a vision when I was really young. Between the ages of 11 and 13 is when I discovered I wanted to be in a band, do music and stuff like that. And my whole thing in my mind was, I just want to be on those stages. It didn't matter to me, like, if Limp Bizkit was there or Korn was there or any of these bands, whatever. I just was like, I want to do what they're doing. And that was it. That was the only thing I saw, actually, was just doing that. And so that never left me, and that just kind of became like my whole mission. And now it is really cool to be able to say, like, yeah, I go and I play festivals with the bands I grew up listening to and stuff like that. It's a great feeling. I can't lie. It's definitely, like, in some ways, definitely still surreal to me that I'm doing this stuff, that all these opportunities have been coming in my direction. It's awesome. It doesn't like, I'm never like ungrateful. It doesn't escape me at all in terms of how I value it and what it means to me still. So yeah, it's a cool thing. I don't want to chalk it up by just saying, like, yeah, man, I manifested all of this. I think that's kind of like a weird, like, egocentric thing for a person to say, but I've been very grateful for the opportunities I've been given. And, it is a great feeling. I won't lie. It's super cool to have my name even somehow associated with, those great bands. So it's cool.
Yeah, I would just imagine, though, there had to be some sort of plan that you were able to make into reality from fiction at one point, because the odds really are or were against you starting out when you think about it. Emmure is much heavier than all those bands, and there were no bands that were doing what you were doing on that type of scale until way later on. Like, I think if you hear the first Emmure album, no one would think this is a band that would be playing major festivals with bands that are more palatable to a mainstream audience.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like I always wanted to be, like, more accessible, like, in terms of, like, people being interested in the band. I guess you just call that being known or popular or famous or whatever the fuck. I always wanted that to be an aspect of the band. And through, like, a series of events, it just kind of, like, became that. We made a shift kind of sonically, like, musically and everything, where we kind of elevated ourselves to this place where we were making music that it's still attributed to the scene that we were in, like, with the whole metalcore, hardcore thing, but it also had a little bit more of that, like, yeah, this is bigger than that. This is bigger than the VFW halls, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it just had that aura about it. And that's kind of the vibe we always wanted to give off. At least me, for sure. That's always what I wanted to happen. So, yeah, I totally agree with you. It's definitely, like, a cool, strange thing to see a band like us who is not really, like, marketable. We're not like, what's it called? I forgot the name of the fucking, we're not like a liquid metal. Yeah. Active rock band, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I like those bands. I like a lot. I fuck with all kinds of music in general, but sure. I guess my point is that when it comes to, like, us being in that space, I don't think it's that strange anymore. Like, back in the day, like, for sure it would have been, like, really, really weird when we were first starting out. But now I think that the band has become something that, even if you have never heard us before, if you see our live set, you can pick up something from it. You can get the energy from that, which is really all I really want, is for people to see us and feel it. That's it. Like, I don't want people to, I hate the feeling of watching a band or any artist and the songs are just, they're not, like, palpable enough to where, like, you can headbang to it, or you're just, like, staring at them like, I don't know where this is going. I like the shit that we serve out to be, like, inviting, so getting to play in those kinds of arenas and those shows, I think, is great for us, because I think that we create that kind of energy where, like, regardless of whether you've ever heard us before, we want you to be involved in some way, even if it's as simple as just banging your fucking head, you know. That's important to us.
Now, we've had some awesome guests on the show in the music world, but some of you haven't been listening from way back in 2019 and 2020, so you may not know we've had Ted Nugent on the show. Yes, I mean, it's definitely one of the bigger names we've had on, and unless you've dug back in the archives, if you're not an early listener, it's very possible you've never heard this. So this is from episode 27 with Ted Nugent, if you want to go back and listen to the whole thing. Here he talks about his own self-discipline in music and in life and how important it is to him, as well as some of his favorite guitarists.
If ever there was a guy who would have been a rebel and started shooting shit into my arm, it would have been me, except that, thank God, I saw these incredible musicians getting high and turning into lumps of shit. And I went, whoa, what my dad said is true, because I wanted to play this music so tight and so perfect, like James Brown and the Motown Funk Brothers, and all of a sudden these stoners were fucking up my music. And it was hard to wake them up, and it was hard to remind them of what the arrangement was. And we were so driven by James Brown's tightness and the way the Fabulous Flames were so on the mark musically that when you're stoned, you can't fucking do it.
You can't do it.
So my dad's pragmatism and life's discipline came into a blinding focus in my pursuit of killer music, and that bow hunting is so difficult to figure out where a deer's going to walk, and you have to learn your relationship with God's miraculous creation in order to get that sacred venison out of the pantry, that those disciplines were such a guiding force to my happiness, my fulfillment, that both hunting and music creation, it defined discipline. You can't. Now I know that Keith Richards is a wrench in that works, but he at least genuflected at the altar of Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and Little Richard and Motown, and even though I don't think he ever made a musical statement without being stoned or drunk, I knew that in my personal experience, the guys that were stoned and drunk, they wrecked the music. They were hard to get to the gig. They were hard to keep propped up. And I didn't invent fuck you, but I perfected it by 66. And if you fucked up with my music, I'm sorry, you're out of here. That's why I'm still 2019, guys, the greatest tour of my life. If we go on the road in 2020, it will be the greatest, most ferocious, fun tour of my life with Greg Smith on bass guitar.
Wow.
Jason Hartless, 23-year-old monster drummer from Detroit. That discipline brings me supreme happiness at the age of 71 and a half. Anybody that doesn't get that, good luck.
No, that's amazing that you still have that fire and passion to do it, and we do hope to see you on the road when all of this passes. You know what I'm wondering? Obviously, from anybody who's been listening, you're a big blues guy. Who would Uncle Ted's top 5 guitarists be?
Say that once again, now.
I'm wondering who your top 5 guitarists would be, and I'm thinking there's a lot of blues guys in there. So,
well, yeah, it sounds like being Detroit,
really
Motown.
I couldn't really give you my top 5. I could give you my 15 lists of top 5s, and right off the top of my head, I would tell you that Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley, because they invented this stuff.
Yeah, wow.
Certainly the blues gods Freddie King and B.B. King and Albert King, and how Stevie Ray Vaughan continued that emotional authority of guitar spirituality. It really goes deep into the core. It goes into your spine and then beyond into the spirit. And then the Eddie Van Halens and certainly the Billy Gibbons. And there's so many. I mean, Ricky Medlock from Leonard Skinner, and my own guitar player for years, Derek St. Holmes. I mean, these guys are just monster guitar. Joe Bonamassa, Neil Schon. I could list you. I mean, I've got to jam with Jimi Hendrix and Brian May and and Joe Perry and Brad Whitford and Eddie Van Halen and Steve Vai and Satriani, and oh my God, these guys are so fucking good. And Angus Young from AC.
Angus from AC.
I could go on and on with 1,000 guitar players that I channel all of them when I pick up my guitar, which I did just about a half an hour ago. Still turns me on like a horny kid in a garage. First amplifier, man.
That's awesome that you still have that passion.
And you're talking when you're talking about precision, and that's what I hear when you're talking precision when you're playing, and you have to have a clear head. You have to be able to have that clear mind. Precision when you're shooting. I think people realize that it's one and the same. You're precise. That's why you're so tight when you shoot. That's why you can hit a moving target. But then when you play, that's why you're so crisp when you play.
Well, that Ted Nugent interview makes for a great transition to talk about the best ammo on the planet, because you guys know Ted Nugent is as avid of a hunter and shooter as there possibly could be. So Fort Scott Munitions is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with every pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states, but you can get it through their website at fsm.com. If you're looking for a dealer near you, just go to the dealer locator on the website. For example, the closest to me is the South Shore Sportsman in Merrick. But to get the best deal through us, you just got to go to fsm.com once again and use the exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline Podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline Podcast. fsm.com. Promo code Battleline. Go there now. And longtime sponsor, Photonis Defense. Now you can have the superpower to see in the dark with the Viper Binocular Night Vision System by Photonis Defense, which is the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high-quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users utilize Photonis Defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. Hunters, shooters, boaters, and enthusiasts can rely on the Photonis Defense Viper Binocular to help them become masters of darkness. The new Viper Binocular system carries the same features and benefits as the Photonis Defense Viper Monocular, with a ruggedized body, and harnesses the power of the Echo Intensifier tubes, giving you sharper images, reduced halo, and industry-leading ultra-fast auto-gating across the range of dynamic operating conditions. This is mil-spec. This is the best night vision out there. Visit PhotonisDefense.com for more information, or look for Photonis Defense product options from your night vision dealer. PhotonisDefense.com, PHOTONIS Defense.com. Another great guest we had on the podcast from the music world was none other than Jasen Rauch from the band Breaking Benjamin. Check it out from episode 125. This is Jasen Rauch.
Because we have a lot of guys from special operations in the military community that listen to the show. But no, I mean, It was like, when we had Silvera on, and we had when we had Jimmy Allen on, your guys' music, and I'm going to say it again, and people are going to roll their eyes at me right now. The music that you guys played is what kept us in the fight a lot downrange. I mean, I've known Breaking Benjamin. I used to listen to Red when I was in Yemen. And I say that, Red's awesome. I mean, they're one of the Christian groups that don't come across as Christian unless but they are. Right? And you guys in Skillet, I got you. I mean, rock it. But Breaking Benjamin especially, and I get chills thinking about it. It's just like you're done with an you put the music on and you feel like you're back home. And it meant a lot. So when I see it, I was like, holy shit, we're getting a guy from Breaking. Are you kidding me? The lead guitarist? I was like, Ian, no way.
That's sick, man. That means a lot, because I come from, and Ian kind of knows this about me, but I come from a family of just a career military.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And I'm the first. Yeah, my first in my family not to be. So I kind of had carried a little bit of guilt with that.
Oh no.
And supporting, so connecting in that sort of way. Even on the if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be a first responder in some capacity or something. That's the only thing I really wanted to do. But to still have the connection with the community there and to be able to support in that way, it means a lot to me. I appreciate you saying that, because that doesn't, go unnoticed. That does mean a lot.
And you do. And you are serving, because that's after a bad day, what gets you back your mindset, or before going out on op. I remember getting in the back of Suburbans when we first started going into Baghdad as a contractor when I was in Blackwater, and we had these Suburbans that couldn't stop shit, but we thought they could, but we come to realize now they couldn't stop a pellet gun. But getting your mind and getting motivated, I played football in college, same thing. Turn on the music and turn it on, and having the playlist there of me and I were just talking about, you having Breaking Benjamin or Seether, Killswitch Engage, Slipknot, having Korn on it. And throwing in some Linkin Park, because you got to get some POD and some Linkin Park, some rock rap in there.
Oh yeah,
and just all right, fuck, let's go.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
So it really did. You rock bands, especially the ones that do support us. We knew who they are. Like groups like Breaking Benjamin. They really do serve, because they get our minds right before we go out the gate. So we're not that it's fear. It's just, okay, adrenaline, let's get it going, get it in the right spot. All right, mindset. And then when we come back, whether it's you're listening to something that's slow, or listening to like I grew up in the 80s. What did you call me? Help me out with my lingo. Where the slow rock, the rock ballads. I grew up in the 80s. Listening to stuff slow. The power ballads. It's getting back and just listening.
I'm right there with you. I'm an 80s kid too. So.
I love it. But that being said, I do have a segue here. Jason, I like talking because I'm kind of starstruck with guys like yourself. But
likewise.
I appreciate it. Tell us, I guess the beginning. So, and you kind of already did, but your military, your family's military, and the decision of why you went why you started playing guitar, and I shouldn't say playing guitar, why you started being fucking killing it on the guitar. But what was the deal, and how was that upbringing with your family being in the military and so forth? A lot of our young listeners, and I want to know. Screw the young listeners. I want to know.
Well, I appreciate that. The wild thing. So I think it's just one of those traits, for better or worse. I think we have this. I have 3 daughters, and I can already see them as they're getting older. My oldest is 13, but I can see their little personality traits, and just kind of, I've got a creative, I've got a type A, I've got a leader, and then I got my just stubborn ornery one. Sometimes those cross back and forth, but so for me, I started playing guitar when I was about 9 or 10, something like that. Never really plugged into the social scene. At school or growing up or high school, never really chased that game too much. And music was just kind of my outlet. So I would spend more time playing and listening and trying to reproduce what I was hearing than being out and being social sometimes. It doesn't mean I was 100% an inside kid. I connected with other musicians and stuff too. But with the family, they were so supportive of things. And I think I can fall back on them, because their support was always, if I wanted to be in ballet, they would have supported me. If I wanted to be a carpenter, they would have supported me. But they were able to kind of see the same things I really want to look out for in my kids, that at a young age, wow, he has some sort of passion. We don't know how this materializes. We don't know, what's going to come of this. We don't, because there's being in a band and being a songwriter or a producer, there's no, there's no degree platform. There's no, there's not these logical integrated steps that as long as you're doing this, you can get here, and you can do this and get here. I mean, there's kids that are, the Post Malone story, that he was pretty young when he got signed, man. I mean, he had a couple failures prior to that, but then he got that perfect team and just took off. That's not everybody's story, For me, I like to think that I made my calculated decisions over the last, 22 years now. So of just small steps, like you said, started in songwriting, started that was always in studios, started with Red, went back to studios, and Breaking Ben started picking up again. And so what's been cool to see is the military side of my family really just as in the same connection that you have. being able to feel connected to them in that way, even though I'm not nowhere near the same sort of career trajectory that they are. My uncle, who I'm really close with, he's one of the people I'm closest with as far as my extended family goes. Retired full bird with the Air Force. Wow. Dad was in the Navy. Grandpa's in the Navy. All over the place. Uncles, 2 Air Force, 2 Army.
Wow.
So it was one of those kinds of things. And then just being, I grew up until I was about 15, north of Chicago, which honestly, you really couldn't pay me to live back there. I love it, but there's some things that just come with it, and especially with first responder culture and even military culture it's difficult in some of those areas, and we've seen that with our shows recently, coming back from COVID. We'll go out on the road with bands like Five Finger Death Punch, which is huge supporter of the military.
Yeah.
And I even talked to some of those guys just about how certain things have changed. You've got the George Floyd thing. You've got coming out of this 20-year war, how we withdrew from Afghanistan. There's a lot of polarizing things that are happening. And so, we'll have songs that we'll dedicate to soldiers or dedicate to first responders. And we've had just people just flip us off and just walk right out.
Wow.
I'm sorry to offend you.
Wow.
There's the door.
Yeah.
It really is this weird polarizing kind of thing. And so, again, back to the family thing, to have that kind of respect and that backbone that goes, okay, that's fine. I'm not trying to shove that on you. I don't hate you for disagreeing where I'm coming from, but this is my story. This is where my history is. So
that's awesome, man. And you can flip them back off for me if you want to. That's fine. It's hey, this is from Tano. This is from Tano.
Now, another in-studio guest we had way back was Jayden Panesso from the group Sylar. And I've been a friend of Jayden since the first Sylar show. We talk about that in the interview in its entirety. I don't know what he's up to now in terms of music because he's doing other stuff. I do know that. But Sylar has been on hiatus for years. Don't know what's going on with them. Maybe you could go to their Instagram or Twitter and ask what's going on. But I don't know what the future really holds for those guys. This excerpt is about Sylar landing a song on ESPN for ESPN's Monday Night Football, which to them was like a landmark, as it would be for any band. Landmark accomplishment, I should say. So check this out. This is Jayden Panesso from Sylar from episode 71.
We had a certain set of goals at the beginning, but we exceeded every single one of those goals and beyond. So seeing ourselves on the radio, we were like, oh shit, that's nuts. So when we went in to do the second album, now we have a different concentration. We're like, holy shit, we're actually like doing well on the radio. We're getting all these new fans. And then, dude, it's crazy. I'll never forget, before we went to do our full, our third album, Seasons, we had a weekend session with Eric Ron where a couple of our guys, we flew over to California to write some tracks before going there to write the full album. And that weekend, we wrote the song All or Nothing. And I'll just never forget, we're writing the song and we're sitting there and I'm like, yo, this is a football song. I'm like, dude, this is a straight up ESPN song. It would be wild if we could somehow land this shit on the NFL. You fast forward 6 months later, dude, like we're about to release the album and we just started our tour at that time, and I get a phone call from our manager like on a Monday, literally a Monday at like noon, and he's like, dude, we just basically got the offer to like be on Monday Night Football for the rest of the year. Like, are you guys down? Blah, blah, blah. Like, we need to like say yes now. The day of.
How does this happen?
It happened through our label. They pitched it and the song worked out.
Did they pitch it because you came up with the idea?
I'm honestly, that's a good question. I'm going to say yeah.
Okay.
Because like, I was very passionate about it. I was just like, dude, this is a straight up like, every time I heard that song, like I could picture it either in like on sports or like a movie about sports, and like that big scene where like the climax happens and like the football team has to beat, like the underdog has to come up and like beat someone. So like I always picture that in my head.
Yeah, you know what I've been thinking of? Because I feel like it's been featured in a million different things, and it's the same attitude of a song is that Mike Shinoda Fort Minor song. What is it called again? The first song. It's the one that, are you ready?
It's that something about percent.
Yeah. Well, I had the name in my head, and now I'm trying to think. Remember the name.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, because remember, and 100 Reasons to Remember the Name.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so but like, it's that type of song.
I agree. So that's what was wild, dude. We got that call, and we were like, okay, cool. And it still didn't feel real. It didn't feel real until like it actually played. I wasn't even watching the game because we just didn't know when it would happen. And I mean, like, yeah, it was there for the full season, but man, when it really hit the first time, dude, it was just like wild, dude. Because I just remember it played, and then our phones, our socials, people are calling us, like everything's just blowing up. People were like, dude, you're on TV, like your song is on fucking ESPN Monday Night Football, and that shit is crazy, dude. I mean, it's insane. I mean, every time it would play on like a Monday night, it was just wild. And now that'll forever be a massive accomplishment for me because I don't know, dude. We were just a fucking bunch of kids with no money from New York City with like a big ass dream in a big ass city where people have massive dreams, and we started out from literally nothing to doing stuff like that, and that's just crazy. It's insane, you know? And like that same song has done a lot of cool things for us. I mean, it's gotten like TV shows on MTV, and I mean, we've gotten like huge people hitting us up about it. And it's just crazy, dude. It's wild. But as crazy as it feels while you're living it, it does feel a lot crazier when you reflect back on it. Like like yesterday, like I told you, we were talking about it and we're like, dude, that's crazy. Like we actually got to do those things, you know? Even doing things like Warped Tour, that was always like my biggest one of my biggest dreams and aspirations was just like, dude, I need to play the Warped Tour because I grew up going to it every summer. So when we did get to play it in 2017, it was wild because we didn't just get on the tour and play it. Like we smacked that shit out the park, dude. Like we killed that tour, and like we were one of the, you know, I don't know, one of like the artists that was getting a lot of hype on that tour. Yeah. And that's just, I'm just proud of it. I'm proud of my guys. I'm proud of us being so determined to like chase these dreams and just doing it, even though a lot of people doubted us and like didn't fuck with what we were doing. We were just like, nah, we believe in this shit, and we kept pushing. And it's just really cool to look at those things that we've done in the past couple of years.
Do you believe in you know, like these documentaries and books like The Secret and like manifesting your dreams, and you know, like if you imagine it, it'll happen? Because it sounds like a lot of that is just like,
yeah, I do to a certain extent. I don't believe you can just manifest things and just sit back and like watch them happen. But I do think when you manifest and you make yourself believe it in your head that it's going to happen, it makes you work harder, and it makes you just push through all those boundaries and walls that are built in front of you, you know? So that's what I think happened to us. We had such a big dream, and I would watch people do the things I wanted to do, and I'm just like, dude, get out of here. I could do this so much better. Not trying to be cocky or anything, but I just really believed in what we had. We all did. And I mean, we put our entire lives on the line for it. You know, we would just jump on a vehicle and go on tour, like for God knows how long. Any show we got in our hands, we would play it. And yeah, I think manifesting is a huge thing, but I do believe manifesting is big because it makes you want to work harder.
Now, if you're old school into thrash metal, you're probably a fan of Anthrax, one of the big four, as they say. And yes, we had a member of Anthrax on the show promoting his book, and it was a great book. I did read the book in its entirety. This is Frank Bello from Anthrax, episode 108, if you want to go back and listen to the full thing, talking about his respect for the military, his lineage and his family for the military, and as well as the scares going on after 9/11 over the Anthrax name. You'll hear this story, so let's get right to it.
My Uncle Johnny, who's now passed, served in Vietnam. My Uncle Dom did too. So this is nothing but respect and love and admiration for people that would protect us. That's the bottom line, you know, give their lives for us. And I love that. Any show, any service person that wants to come to an Anthrax show, please let me know. You're in. That's as far as I'm concerned. But when they come up to us and say our music helped them get through a day, you have to understand how that feels, because I know what you guys are doing, and thank you for it. Thank you for your service. I want to say to everybody out there, thank you for your service, for making us feel safe. Thank you. You have to understand that makes us feel it. That's the reason why we do it, to make people feel that what you felt, and get you through it. Whatever whatever that gut feeling that you have, that energy that's coming out right there, and it's satisfying that angst in you. That's what it means to me. That's what it still does that to me. So when I have servicemen come up to us and say, "You guys got us through with your songs," and look, I would love to play some of these shows. I know with the name Anthrax, it's a little bit weird, right? But I would love to play for the servicemen and servicewomen. I would love that. It would be awesome. And because what's the better thank you than that, right? But we've never been asked. We've never been asked for that. And we would love to. It would be awesome.
It's interesting because I've heard that from other guys on the show too. Like we had Dave Silvera, formerly from Korn, on here, and Dave Silvera is a huge supporter of the military, and he's like, "Yeah, I would love to play these military bases, but we never got the opportunity."
I know it's the name Anthrax. I get it, but this, it has nothing to do with that. We're trying to make a good name, right? And we want to play. It would be awesome, but honestly, we've never been asked, and it would be a pleasure and an honor to do that. So. The door's always open for that one. So if they get to change that, the ideology of the whole Anthrax thing, I'm all in though, dude.
Dude, I still remember during that whole Anthrax scare when you put out the press release that said we are changing our name to Basket Full of Puppies.
Yeah.
We're no longer going to go by Anthrax. And then I love that shot of you coming out at the show with the we're not changing our names. And that makes me think that was actually, we were talking about Eddie Trunk, it goes full circle. I think that was at the show that Eddie Trunk hosted with you guys, right? Yeah.
It was. And Eddie did a great job with that. New York Steel, it was called. And, first responders, and it was incredible because people were saying, the news was saying you're going to change our names. We're not going to. Scott said it in jest. They went on the CNN ticker, went all along. Of course, we weren't going to do that, but it got crazy for a while there. So we came out with these white jumpsuits, and everybody had a word. We're not going to change our names, and the crowd they erupted enormously. It was incredible. It was an incredible feeling, and even before the show, going up to the stage. All the firemen and firewomen and policemen and policewomen coming up to us saying, "Don't change your name. Don't make them win." It was an incredible feeling. It really was. So it was a great night, and it was a great cause, and it was powerful, man.
That's amazing. I'll have to put up a picture of the "We're Not Changing Our Names" because that's such an iconic.
It was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, photo. I feel like with the jumpsuits, that was so
Still
cool.
Feel it when you see that picture. It's kind of cool.
All right, and the last interview we're going to highlight for this episode is none other than legendary DJ. You know him from Dr. Octagon and a bunch of other things. DJ QBert. He talks about how it's God working through you during the creative process.
Some people are a little bit like they can't figure it out, and some people could figure it out. It's like, I don't know, it's tough. You tell them something and they don't listen, so... this is for the people that will listen. The universe is there to work through you, to help you. Sometimes I'll make music and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where do I start? It's kind of like you're kind of not doing it in the first place. It's kind of the universe is working through you. It's like people that are like, I invented this, I invented that. I made this up. I used to be like that, but it's not really like that. It's God is working through you, so you kind of like you just gotta start and things will magically happen. It really works like that. I swear it really does. Sometimes it won't, but you just gotta keep on experimenting and it will. It's almost as if you got these guardian angels behind you and they're like, all right, let's start. I'm gonna make something for you, but you gotta like move your body to make the angels work through you, And so it's just, for me, that's for me. Everyone else is like different, but for me, that's how it works for me. I'm like, the other day I was looking at my drum machine. I was like, damn, where do I start? And I was like, I got to slap myself and be like, it's not me. It's a higher force that's making it happen. And it's like, it sounds silly. It sounds all like woo spiritual and all that, but it's for me, it works. And the proof is in the pudding. I got a lot of shit done by just letting it flow. Just go. Just practice. Just make a beat. Stuff just starts to happen magically. I swear to God, it just does it.
Yeah, and sometimes that's a humble way of looking at things, to not look at yourself as this creator of
whatever it is that you've made. It's that God has given all of us a certain talent, and we need to discover that and use it to the best of our ability.
Yeah, it's DJ Muggs said it the best. He said you got to respect your art. If you don't respect your art, everything falls apart. And that was one of the biggest inspirations that I got. I'm like, oh shit, I better respect my shit, or else, the bills don't get paid, or if you're as an artist, you don't blossom. It's like a flower, right? Or whatever. It just keeps blossoming, continuous blossoming. And if you stop that blossoming, if you stop feeding that plant, the nutrients or honing that, taking care of that, the growth, it's just gonna stunt it, and it's almost like the, what do you call that? The rabbit and the hare, like
the tortoise and the hare. Yeah.
The hare, yes, it goes, and but the rabbit's like, I'm good. I already invented some shit. I'm gonna take a nap, and all of a sudden, after a while, the freaking, the tortoise passes you up. You just gotta, place a brick every day. And now after a while, you have a freaking castle.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've heard this time and time again. For me, with my thing with podcasting, is I get asked all the time, how do I start? What should I do? Since this is what I've been doing, and I'll give people tips, but I've seen it where I give people the best of what I can, and then a year later they're like, yeah, I'm still thinking of starting this podcast. You just got to make it happen. I'm sure you've probably heard it from someone who wants to put out an album, wants to DJ, and a year later, 2 years later, nothing.
You just got to go, man. I was having a talk with Mixmaster Mike from the Beastie Boys the other day. He's also in my crew, the Invisible Scratch Pickles. We're going to start working on.
He's amazing.
Yeah, we're going to do another album pretty soon. Another Invisible Scratch Pickles album too. Anyway, I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking about how to get motivated. And Mixmaster Mike said, "It's a fight, bro. It's a fight. Some days you don't want to do it. You just got to fucking let's go, boom, boom, boom." And that's also motivation too. You got to just.
I think I've mentioned this before on previous episodes of the podcast, but I'm a huge fan of the artist David Cho. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah, sure. Amazing, yeah.
Yeah. So he did this amazing podcast, which you guys could look up if you're listening. And I think once again, I've referenced it before. He took it down, but it's on YouTube if you look up How to Be a Master of the Universe, David Cho. And one thing he said that resonated with me is he said, inspiration or no inspiration, you got to get there and create. He's like, I don't care if you're in a black room with no lights, nothing else going on. If you're a true artist, you're going to create. And he's like, you might get home from your day job. He's like, you want to jerk off? You want to watch The Simpsons? You want to play video games? He's like, cool. All of that is great. But you know what? You're not a fucking artist. If a real artist wants to create all the time, inspiration or no inspiration.
Yeah, that's another thing. When I get stuck on video games, I freaking take that video game, and I'll fucking hide it and shit, or fucking. I forgot. Like sometimes I'll be like, damn, what the fuck am I doing? I've been here for like a couple days now. I'll seriously like just hide that shit, because that's it's cool to relax and get away for a little bit, but it's I started looking at my music as a video game now. Like life is a video game. It's like, okay, if I can be this freaking good at that video game, imagine if I took all that time and thought of this as also you're playing as well, what you're doing as an artist.
And that does it for this episode of Battleline Podcast. Once again, if you haven't been following on Instagram at Battleline Podcast or on Twitter at Battleline Pod, or listening to recent episodes, you might not know that episodes are now going live on Tuesdays instead of Monday. So bookmark that and, keep note of it. That's when the episodes go live, whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching, because we usually do a visual on YouTube. You'll hear the new outro here. We're going to have a new intro soon. We've got a lot of great guests in store. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. It's been a while since we've had one, and it would really help our ranking out. So if you're still listening, we appreciate it. Go to Apple, leave your review, and we'll be back on Tuesday with a brand new episode.
That's all for this episode of Battleline Podcast, but we're always posting new content on social media. Follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. That's an order. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes up every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast platform of choice. Believe in yourself. Face all challenges head on. And as always, never quit.